The sound of a slap echoed across the marble floor of Monarch Financial Bank. Preston Reed, the branch's customer service manager, had struck a woman in plain clothes. His voice thundered through the high-ceilinged lobby. "I've already called. The police. We don't serve your kind here." Bystanders froze mid-transaction. Phones lifted as they began recording. Two security guards rushed over, not to restrain Preston, but to surround the woman he had assaulted. Her name was Zora Timberlake. She stood still, cheek burning, eyes locked on her attacker. At 45, Zora was not the anonymous customer Preston assumed she was. She was a billionaire businesswoman, founder of Timberlake Financial, and one of the most respected executives in banking. She had graced the covers of Forbes and Black Enterprise. Hospitals, universities, and community centers across the country bore her name on their donor walls. Her company managed assets exceeding $9 billion. But none of that was visible in the bank lobby that morning. Instead of her tailored suits and elegant jewelry, she wore off-the-rack slacks, a cardigan, and a simple headscarf. She had hidden her signature glasses behind contact lenses. To Preston, she was just another middle-class black woman trying to open an account. What he didn't know was that Zora owned the bank he worked for. 3 weeks earlier, she had quietly acquired Monarch Financial in a deal known only to the board and top executives. Before announcing her ownership, she had decided to walk through its branches disguised as an ordinary customer. Her mission was deeply personal. 30 years earlier, Zora's grandmother, Eloise Jenkins, had entered this same bank seeking a home loan. Despite perfect credit and income, she was denied with vague excuses. That rejection shaped her family's future, forcing them to rent instead of owning property and robbing them of generational wealth. Zora never forgot that story. She knew discrimination rarely appeared on balance sheets or audit reports. To expose it, she needed to feel it herself, to see how everyday customers were treated when no one knew who she was. Her executives had warned her it was risky. "Why not just send in mystery shoppers?" they argued. But Zora was adamant. "You can't fix what you don't understand from the ground up. I need to see it with my own eyes." Even her teenage son, Jamel, struggled to understand. Over dinner one night, he asked, "You own the bank now, Mom. Why not just fire everyone and start over?" "Because," she told him, "firing people doesn't change a system. They just carry the same behavior somewhere else." "The real power," she added, "is in being underestimated." For Zora, Monarch Financial was more than an acquisition. It was a confrontation with history. Her grandmother's, her own, and the countless families denied opportunity by discriminatory banking. The stage was set. Her undercover visits would reveal exactly what kind of institution she now owned. And soon her disguise would bring the bank face to face with a truth it had long ignored. It was a Tuesday morning when Zora first walked into Monarch Financial as Zora Jenkins, a middle-class consultant with steady income, good credit, and savings. She had crafted this identity with meticulous care. A modest purse with neatly organized documents, including bank statements and a driver's license under her grandmother's maiden name. The branch was imposing, designed to project wealth and tradition. Tall brick walls, brass fixtures, and polished marble floors sent a clear message. This was a bank for the already privileged, not those still striving. Zora joined the line at 10:17 a.m. She noticed the way white customers ahead of her were treated. A businessman in his 50s was immediately escorted to a private office. An elderly couple received warm, patient guidance about their retirement accounts. Every gesture, every tone radiated courtesy and respect. When it was Zora's turn, she smiled politely at the young teller, Aiden Fox. Fresh-faced, eager, his white shirt and tie too crisp for comfort. Yet when he saw her, his expression faltered. A flicker of hesitation he quickly tried to hide. "I'd like to open a checking and savings account," Zora said evenly. "And I'd also like information on your investment services." Instead of offering to connect her with a personal banker, as he had just done for others, Aiden handed her a brochure. "All our account information is online," he said. You could also use the ATM to open a basic account without waiting. The suggestion was clear. Use the machines, not the people. I'd prefer to speak with someone, Zora replied, still smiling. Aiden grew visibly uncomfortable. He picked up the phone, speaking in coded language. I have a walk-in asking for account services. Yes, she's requesting a banker. I understand. Hanging up, he forced a smile. I'm afraid all our bankers are busy. It could be a long wait. Are you sure you wouldn't rather try our online services? As he spoke, the lobby doors opened, and a white woman in business attire stepped in. Instantly, Preston Reed, the customer service manager, rose from his desk, approached her with enthusiasm and said loudly, "Good morning. Are you here to open an account? I'd be happy to help you personally." The contrast was undeniable. Zora asked to wait. Preston soon approached, his assessment of her swift and dismissive. His tailored suit and practiced smile masked what his eyes betrayed, a calculation of her worth to the institution. For new clients, we usually recommend starting with our online portal, he said. Our staff is very busy with existing account holders. Zora remained composed. I'd prefer to meet with someone. I'm happy to wait or schedule an appointment. Preston's smile tightened. In that case, we'll need additional documentation. Proof of address, tax returns, business registration, compliance protocols, you understand. The white woman who had entered after Zora was already being seated with a banker. No such demands had been made of her. Zora handed over her license. Social security card and utility bill, more than enough. Preston examined them with exaggerated suspicion, holding her ID up to the light as though checking for forgery. Then came the final dismissal. If you're looking for a more basic banking experience, there's a community credit union 6 blocks east that may be a better fit. The message was clear. Customers like her were not welcome. Zora thanked them, tucked her documents back into her purse, and left without argument. She had seen what she came to see, polite exclusion wrapped in policy. But this was only the beginning. Tomorrow, she would return, prepared for the next round. Zora returned the next morning, this time armed with every possible piece of documentation: tax returns, bank statements, business registration papers, far more than anyone should need to open a checking account. Her plan was simple: eliminate every legitimate excuse for denial. The lobby was busier than the day before. Aiden noticed her instantly, his face flickering with recognition. Preston Reed, meanwhile, was laughing with a white client across the room. Instead of lining up at the teller window, Zora went straight to the information desk. I'm here for my appointment, she said calmly. There was no appointment, of course, but the claim forced the receptionist to treat her differently. Strange, I don't see it in the system, the receptionist murmured, already making call. Zora opened her folder, showing her stack of documents. I was assured I could come in this morning. Since I'm here, perhaps someone can help me. The timing was perfect. Bryson Walsh, the branch manager, noticed. Tall, silver-haired, with the smooth charm of a man who had built his career on avoiding accountability, Walsh approached. His practiced smile froze slightly when Preston appeared at his side. Mr. Walsh, Preston said, his voice carrying coded emphasis. This is the individual I mentioned yesterday. She was advised of our documentation requirements. Walsh's expression cooled instantly. I see. Well, let's review what you've brought. Zora laid out her driver's license, passport, birth certificate, utility bills, credit report, business records, and tax returns. More than enough. Walsh scanned them, searching for reasons to delay. Finding none, he reluctantly signaled to a loan officer. Vivian can assist you, he said, retreating back into his office. Vivian Mercer, 61, had been in banking for 4 decades. She carried herself with the stiff formality of someone who believed rules were tools to keep people in their place. She began the process mechanically, her tone cold, her questions clipped. When Zora asked about wealth management services, Vivian waved her off. Those typically require a minimum of $250,000. We usually recommend basic savings options for customers beginning their journey. Zora met her eyes. I currently manage an investment portfolio of over $500,000. I'd like diversification advice. For a moment, Vivian faltered. Then she masked her surprise and said flatly, "We would need to verify those assets. The requirements are extensive." Nearby, Zora noticed a white couple being guided through investment options without any such scrutiny. She leaned forward. "Interesting. They weren't asked for verification. Our policies applied differently for different clients." Vivian flushed, muttering, "Each case is unique." The tension escalated further when Preston circled back, feigning helpfulness while hovering like a hawk. "Is there a problem here?" he asked Vivian, deliberately excluding Zora from the question. "She has questions about verification," Vivian replied cautiously. Preston seized the moment. "Our requirements ensure we only serve qualified clients. If our procedures don't meet your expectations, perhaps another bank would suit you better." For the second time in as many days, Zora was being told to take her business elsewhere. She responded evenly, her voice pitched just loud enough for other customers to hear. "I'm simply asking why requirements differ from person to person." The room grew quieter. Customers pretended to look at their phones but were clearly listening. Preston's jaw tightened. "We'll need 7 to 10 business days to process your application." Zora glanced toward another customer, a white man who had arrived after her and was already walking out with checks in hand. "Interesting. His account was opened immediately. Why would mine take weeks?" Preston's face reddened. "Each client's situation is unique," he repeated, retreating abruptly. Zora gathered her documents, thanked Vivian, and left. Outside, she wrote down everything she had observed. Extra documentation, deliberate delays, double standards applied. Openly in front of other customers. The pattern was unmistakable. But she wasn't done. Tomorrow she would escalate her request and test the bank at its breaking point. Thursday morning arrived crisp and clear. Zora dressed a little more formally, still modest, but with sharper presence, carrying her leather portfolio with quiet determination. She entered the lobby of Monarch Financial for the third day in a row. This time, everyone noticed. Aiden glanced nervously from his teller window. Vivian buried herself in paperwork. Preston stiffened when their eyes met. Zora approached the desk. "Good morning. I'd like to speak with someone about business loan options." The receptionist gave her a neutral smile, clearly aware of the tension. "Do you have an existing business account with us?" "Not yet," Zora said evenly. "I'm evaluating my options." She was told to wait. 23 minutes passed. In that time, 3 white customers came in and were immediately assisted. One of them escorted straight into a private office for the very same type of loan consultation Zora had requested. Eventually, Vivian appeared with a thin folder. She didn't sit down. "Here are our basic business services," she said, handing over generic brochures. Zora opened the folder, unimpressed. "I was hoping to discuss tailored options. I brought projections and business plans." Vivian hesitated, glancing at Preston. "Our specialists are occupied. You could leave your materials and someone will contact you." At that moment, the doors opened again. A white man in khakis walked in. Preston lit up. "Mr. Davidson, hear about that expansion loan? Bryson's ready for you." And just like that, the man was ushered into the manager's office. The contrast could not have been sharper. Zora's voice carried across the lobby. "Interesting. Specialists seem available for some clients. I'll wait for Mr. Walsh." Vivian flushed and retreated. Across the room, Zora overheard Preston muttering with colleagues. "Third day in a row. Tired of this. People like that always want special treatment." That was enough. Zora rose, crossed the lobby, and faced them directly. Her voice was steady, firm, and loud enough for all to hear. "Excuse me. Did I just hear you discussing why certain customers are treated differently based on race?" The lobby went silent. All eyes turned to the confrontation. Preston flushed, anger sparking. "You're mistaken, and if you're not here for legitimate business, you need to leave." "I've been here 3 days in a row," Zora replied, unshaken. "Each time I've been treated differently from other customers. Excessive documentation, delays, being told to go elsewhere, and now I hear slurs." "You're creating a Disturbance, Preston snapped, stepping closer. Leave now, before I call security. Please do, Zora said calmly. Perhaps they'll explain why this bank has two standards of service. The heat in Preston's face boiled over. In a burst of rage, he raised his hand and struck her across the cheek. The crack of the slap rang through the marble hall. Gasps erupted. Phones flew up, recording. Zora did not flinch. She held her head high, her eyes fixed on him. I've already called the police, Preston barked. We don't serve your kind here. Moments later, sirens wailed outside. 3 officers entered, 2 men, 1 woman. Preston rushed forward, seizing control of the narrative. Thank God you're here. This woman's been disruptive and threatening. We restrained her to protect staff. It was a breathtaking lie. The lead officer, a heavy-set man, turned immediately toward Zora. His hand hovered near his weapon. Ma'am, step away and show your hands. The crowd stirred uneasily. Then a voice broke the silence. A middle-aged white woman stepped forward. That's not what happened. He slapped her. We all saw it. I have it on video. Others chimed in. It's true. She didn't threaten anyone. The younger Asian-American officer frowned at Preston. Sir, multiple witnesses are contradicting your account. We'll need to review security footage. Walsh, sensing his own exposure, suddenly appeared. Of course, officers. I can authorize access immediately. His survival instinct was quick. He knew the tide had shifted. The lead officer turned. Back to Zora. Ma'am, I still need you to step aside. I understand, Zora said calmly. But first I need to make a phone call. The officer hesitated, then nodded. Zora dialed, placing the phone on speaker. Miss Timberlake, came the crisp voice of her attorney, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. The name landed like a thunderclap. Preston's face drained of color. Staff exchanged bewildered glances. Who exactly was this woman? Zora ended the call, returning the phone to her purse with measured calm. Then she looked directly at Preston. Use the next few minutes to consider your actions and their consequences, Mr. Reed. Moments later, the glass doors swung open again. 3 impeccably dressed professionals strode in, her executive team. The room shifted instantly. Authority calls. Had arrived. The storm Preston had unleashed was about to consume him. The 3 newcomers cut through the tension like a blade. At the front was Desiree, Zora's sharp-eyed chief of staff, her Armani suit radiating quiet power. Behind her walked Monarch's new corporate counsel, a silver-haired attorney with a briefcase, and the young tech director, tablet in hand, already securing the bank's systems. They didn't pause for introductions. They went straight to Zora. Miss Timberlake, Desiree said clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. We've secured the documents you requested. She handed over a sleek leather portfolio embossed with the Timberlake Financial logo, a brand recognized across the banking industry. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Preston's jaw tightened as confusion gave way to dread. Zora opened the portfolio, removing documents stamped with corporate seals. She turned to face Preston and Bryson Walsh, her voice calm but cutting. I am Zora Timberlake, CEO of Timberlake Financial. 3 weeks ago, my company acquired controlling interest in Monarch Financial's parent corporation. In plain terms, I own this bank. The room froze. Preston's hand trembled as she placed the signed acquisition papers in front of him. His face collapsed, the bluster of moments earlier replaced by sickly shock. I didn't know. I'm so sorry, please. Walsh's survival instincts kicked in. He stepped forward, his tone shifting from cool dismissal to desperate servility. Miss Timberlake, had we known who you were, of course you would have received our premier experience. Clearly this has all been a misunderstanding. Zora's eyes narrowed. No, Mr. Walsh, there was no misunderstanding. What I experienced here is exactly how this branch treats customers it perceives as powerless. That is the culture you've enabled. The words fell heavy. Around them, customers exchanged looks. They had witnessed everything. Phones captured every second. Desiree reclaimed the acquisition documents, then handed Zora a set of HR papers. The executive team is assembled. Legal is ready. and HR is prepared to implement personnel changes immediately. The younger officer stepped forward, addressing Zora respectfully now. Miss Timberlake, do you wish to press charges for the assault? We have multiple witnesses and video evidence. The lobby held its breath. Preston, pale and trembling, looked at her as if his future dangled on her decision. Zora considered, then shook her head. No, this isn't about one man's downfall. It's about changing a culture, but he cannot remain here. Preston sagged as security escorted him toward the back offices. His career was over before he even left the building. Walsh tried to salvage himself. I had no knowledge, Zora cut him off. Mr. Walsh, we have emails, footage, and testimony showing otherwise. You enabled these practices. You're finished here as well. His protests rose into angry shouts as security took his arm. I gave 26 years to this bank. Do you know who I am? Yes, Zora replied coldly. And that's the problem. Vivian Mercer, the veteran loan officer, was dismissed next. She left quietly, clutching her small box of belongings, her 4 decades of service undone by her own rigid prejudice. The spectacle was complete. 3 long-serving employees gone in one afternoon. Customers and staff watched as the once powerful faces of the branch were escorted out like disgraced criminals. The hush that followed was broken by Zora's voice, calm but commanding. What you've witnessed today is not punishment. It is accountability. This branch, and every branch of Monarch Financial, will operate by new standards: respect, transparency, and equal service for all customers, regardless of race, background, or account size. Her words carried through the marble hall, firm as law. Phones kept recording. History was being made in real time. The lobby of Monarch Financial had transformed into a stage for justice. Customers whispered, some applauding quietly as Preston, Walsh, and Vivian were escorted out with their boxes of belongings. What began as an undercover experiment had become a public reckoning. Videos of the confrontation spread online within hours. By evening, local news vans were parked outside. Reporters captured the sight of executives being marched out of a bank they once controlled, a reversal so striking it seemed scripted. Zora had chosen transparency over secrecy. Instead of hiding behind confidential settlements, she opened the books. A third-party audit was launched, not to cover up but to expose. Every policy, every lending decision, every account denial was reviewed. The findings, released publicly, painted a damning picture: discriminatory practices woven into the institution's daily operations. The industry braced for scandal. Analysts predicted collapse. Competitors whispered that Monarch was finished. But something unexpected happened. Within a quarter, new account applications surged, up 34%. Minority customers who had long avoided big banks began opening accounts, citing trust in Zora's reforms. Corporate clients with social responsibility pledges shifted their business to Monarch, eager to align with a bank actually living its values. The changes were not cosmetic. Account access. All documentation requirements were standardized and published openly. No more special rules selectively applied. Lending. Zip codes were removed from credit criteria, ending the modern version of redlining that had once denied Zora's grandmother her loan. Loans were now judged on real risk, not proxies for race or class. Customer service. The client ranking system that had quietly sorted customers into valuable and non-valuable groups was dismantled. Every client was guaranteed the same baseline of respect. Hiring. Staff now reflected the communities they served. New hiring panels included diverse voices to minimize bias. Training covered not just technical skills, but the history of financial discrimination and the psychology of unconscious bias. 6 months later, the branch that once humiliated Zora stood unrecognizable. Gone were the intimidating barriers and frosty counters. In their place were open consultation tables and digital displays highlighting community investment projects. The human changes were even more striking. Zora watched an elderly black woman receive patient investment advice, the banker treating her with the same respect he had shown a wealthy white businessman moments earlier. A young Latino entrepreneur discussed loan options without being buried in unnecessary paperwork. A South Asian family opened accounts with standard ID. Nothing more, nothing less. Every interaction reflected the future Zora had envisioned. As she stood in that lobby, Zora thought of her grandmother. Eloise Jenkins had been turned away, and this very place 30 years earlier denied the chance to build generational wealth. That denial had rippled across her family's life. Now Zora had turned the same ground into a place of access rather than exclusion. The walls hadn't changed, but the spirit of the institution had. She knew the fight wasn't over. Discrimination in banking was systemic, not isolated to one branch. But she also knew what Monarch's transformation represented. A model. Proof that when injustice is exposed and accountability enforced, change is possible. That afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the tall windows, Zora paused by the entrance, the same doors her grandmother had once walked through in hope, only to leave in disappointment, now open to a future her family could not have imagined then. She straightened a frame on the wall, a small act of order in a newly ordered institution. Monarch. Financial was no longer a monument to exclusion. It was living proof that power, when used with vision, could turn pain into progress. And for Zora Timberlake, it was more than business. It was justice fulfilled. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel.